Welcome class. I am Dr. Seema Matre, Assistant Professor in Department of Computer Science and Engineering and Kite Group of Institutions. I am teaching you the subject Web Technology. Its code is KCS602. In today's lecture, I will cover the topic Constructors, Inheritance and Interface in Java. Dear students, today I am going to cover the topics Constructors, Inheritance and Interfaces. So let's start with the topic constructors. What are constructors? Constructor is similar to a method that is invoked when an object of the class is created. It provides data for object, that's why it is known as constructor. If there is no constructor in a class, compiler automatically creates a default constructor. In this, there is a class bike. Inside this, we haven't made any other constructor. Compiler, it automatically deducts and writes this constructor for it. Rules defined for the constructor, that will be constructor name must be same as its class name. Constructor must have no explicit return type. It cannot be abstract, static, final, and synchronized. Types of Java constructors. It is basically three types of Java constructors: no argument constructor, parameterized constructor, default constructor. So let's start with no argument constructor. Similar to methods, a constructor may or may not have any arguments. If a constructor does not accept any parameters, in such case it is known as no argument constructor. Syntax: we make a constructor and there is no arguments over here and we just start the body of the constructor. Let's have the example class company and it has an attribute name string type. Now we make a constructor the same name of the class name company, and here we provided the value Janish dash to this variable name. After that, we make the main function. Here, when we made the object of this class company with the name obj like this, this is the way how we create an object, as this we have already learned. Now here, when we want to print the company name, it can be accessed with the help of this object or the instance of a class with the help of this dot operator. This is the name of the object and this is the name of the variable that belong to the class, and here the dot operator. So this way, with the help of the object, we can access the class members. So this way, we have initialized, we have given or we have assigned the value to this variable with the help of this constructor. So when we made the object of this class, at that time automatically this constructor was called and this constructor provided the value to this attribute. And when we display, it will display the output as company name equal to Janish dash, which was provided by the constructor. Parameterized constructor. Those constructor which can accept one or more parameters. We can understand with the help of the example. So here we have made a class rectangle. It has two attributes, length and breadth, and we made this constructor having the same name as that of a class. It received the two arguments and both are of integer type under the variable name L and B. So what it did, whatever the values was assigned to L and B, it provided them to these two attributes. This class has the method area, and in this method, what it has done, it has made the use of these two attributes, length and breadth, multiplied them and returned. Whenever this method will be called, as it is a method, it is needed to be called. So whenever it will be called, it will return the multiplication of length and breadth. As this is a constructor, it is not needed to be called. It is as soon as we made the object, this constructor will automatically be called. So here inside the main, when we made the object of this class rectangle with the object name first rect, and we assigned it with the memory with the help of this new keyword. So with the help of new, we made the object, we created the instance of a class. As soon as we did this, we passed the two values 5 and 6. This 5 and 6, this got passed automatically to the constructor and received inside this two variable L and B, which the constructor assigned to its members, to its class members. Next time, another object we made, and this time we passed 7 and 8. So it will receive 7 and 8 and again assigned to this length and breadth. Next time, when we want to print the area of the first rectangle, what we did, with the help of this first rect object, we called the area. And the first rect, when we created this instance, we passed 5 and 6. So this time 5 and 6 will be assigned to length and breadth, and when this instance called this method area, it will produce the multiplication of length and breadth, which will be 5 multiplied by 6, and it will return 30 this time. For the next time, when we are calling the area method with this another instance, second rect. So when we made this second instance, we passed the two arguments away from here, 7 and 8. It was received in L and B and assigned to length and breadth. When this another instance called area this time, it has got 7 and 8. 7 and 8 will get multiplied, and this time it will return 7 into 8, that will be 56. Now the output is like this. So when we compiled the file, we executed the file, and we got the output. First time 5 into 6, 30, and next time 7 into 8, 56. This is the work of parameterized constructor. Now the next one is default constructor. This is when we don't give any constructor in a class, the compiler insert the default constructor into our code during compilation. Basically, the purpose of default constructor, it is used to provide the default values to the objects like 0, null, etc. depending on the data type. It will be invoked automatically at the time of object creation. Syntax like this. It is the name of the constructor, which is similar to the name of a class. Its bracket and the curly bracket, its body. Example, create the no argument constructor in the student class. Like this. Display the default values. So in the student class, the two attributes, one is int id, another one is string name. With the help of the display, we are going to display the values of this id and the name. Now, as it is a method, it will not be called itself. It is required to be called. So in the main method, we make the instance of the class student. This time, when the instance was created, then automatically the default constructor was called, and it provided the default value to ID and name. And the default value for integer is 0, and for the string the default value is null. Another time we make another instance variable of the student class. This time again the default constructor will be called, and it will provide 0 to this integer variable ID and null to this string variable name. So with the help of this instance variable s1, when we call the display, it will produce 0 and null. Second time, the second instance or the second object, when it will call the display again, this time it will also provide the same value, the same default values, 0 and null. Now the next topic is inheritance. Inheritance in Java, how it is possible? It is basically a mechanism in which one object acquires all the properties and behaviors of a parent object. It is an important part of object-oriented programming. What is the idea behind inheritance? Basically, we can create new classes that are built upon existing classes. When existing class gets inherited, it can reuse methods and fields of the parent class. Moreover, we can add new methods and fields in our current class also. It represents the is-a relationship, which is also known as parent-child relationship. The usefulness of inheritance for method overriding, so that runtime polymorphism can be achieved. And another important aspect of using inheritance is for code reusability. When a class it inherits its another class, and when it is shared by number of classes, means the same piece of code need not to be created by another class. That is the main purpose, the basic use which is performed by code reusability. The various terms used in inheritance. The first one is class. It is a group of objects which have common properties. It is a blueprint from which objects are created. Another one is subclass or the child class. It is that class which basically inherits other class. It is also known as derived or extended class. Superclass or the parent class. It is basically a class from where a subclass or a child class inherits the features. That's why it is also called as a base class. Reusability. With the help of this inheritance, it has provided us the ability to use the same field and methods already defined in previous class by a new class. Syntax of inheritance. We can understand it in this manner. Class, the subclass name or the child name, extends keyword is used over here, and after that we mention the parent class or the superclass name, and then we extend the child class by having its own methods and fields. Because another thing it is extending, it is reusing the features of the superclass, and along with it, it has its own methods and fields. The extend keywords, the purpose of extend keywords, it is used to make a class that derives from existing class. So this is the existing class, and with the help of this extend keyword, we can create another new class. The meaning of extend is to increase the functionality. Here we are increasing the functionality of the parent class with the help of this child class. Inherited class, the class which is getting inherited, it is called superclass, and the new class which is being derived, it is known as subclass. Example, here there is a programmer having the attribute bonus, which is of integer type. Another one is employee having the attribute salary of the float type. What is the relationship between them? In this figure, programmer, it is the subclass, and employee is the superclass. The relationship between the two classes is that we can say programmer is a employee. It means programmer is a type of employee. Now we can take this with the help of this program, class employee. It has the variable, the attribute salary of the float type, and the value is 80,000. The salary is 80,000. Now we are making a child class, programmer, which is extending the feature of the employee class. It has its own variable bonus, and the bonus is 25,000. Inside the main, what we did, we made the object of this derived class, because this is the class which is sharing the features of this parent. So it has both the features. It is including its own as well as the parents. So we'll make the object of this child class. The programmer, its variable or its object is P with the help of this new keyword. Then we displayed the salary as with the help of this object P dot salary. Now this salary, basically it belongs to the employee, but as the employee is getting extended by the child, now the object of the child or the instance of a child can share the attributes of its parent also. And along with this, it can also have its own attribute, its own field. It will be derived. It can be picked or accessed with the help of this object P, and the attribute is bonus. So this child, the programmer, it can have the benefits of both the attributes, its own and the one that belong to its parent. So this is the output. The first time, the programmer's salary, it will be denoted as it is a float. It will display 80,000, and bonus of the programmer is 25,000. So this is the benefit of the inheritance. Here, programmer object can access its own field as well as the employee class. Types of inheritance: single inheritance, a relationship where a class extends another class. In this example, it is called single because a single class B is inheriting a parent class A. Only one parent is there which is getting inherited by the child B. Multi-level inheritance. It is a relationship where a class extends the child class. In this example, class C, it is extending the class B, whereas B, it is extending the class A. For class C, though B is a parent, but B itself is a child of class A. So this is called multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, where more than one classes, they extend the same class. For example, in this case, classes B and C, they both are extending the same class A. In Java, multiple and hybrid inheritance is supported only through interface. It is not possible with the help of inheritance. In multiple inheritance, what is happening? A class is trying to share the features from two parent classes. And hybrid is a combination of several other type of inheritances. So it creates ambiguity, a confusion. So as we know, Java is very simple. There is no confusion. That's why it is not allowing such type of inheritance directly over here. It is only possible with the help of interface. Now we move to interfaces. An interface, it is similar to a class. It is again a blueprint of a class. It has static constants and its methods are abstracts. It is used to achieve abstraction and multiple inheritance in Java. Java interface, it also represents is a relationship. It cannot be instantiated just like abstract class. It is used to support the functionality of multiple inheritance. To declare an interface, we use the keyword interface. Interface provides total abstraction. It means all the methods that belong to an interface are declared with empty body, and all the fields that belong to that interfaces are public, static, and final by default. A class that implements an interface must implement all methods declared in an interface. It is compulsory for that class. Now the syntax, we will use the keyword interface and it will be followed by the interface name. Inside its curly braces, we will declare the fields which are constants and the methods which are by default abstract. Compiler, it adds public and abstract keyword before this interface method automatically itself. It also adds public, static, and final keyword before the data members. Thus, interface fields means those fields that belong to an interface are public, static, and final by default, and its methods are public and abstract. In this example, there is an interface printable. Its member field has the value 5 and it has a method print. So whenever this file will get compiled, the compiler will automatically add public, static, final in front of this int variable and public abstract just before this method. Relationship between classes and interfaces. What is the relationship between them? A class extends another class. An interface extends another interface. But a class implements an interface. As we know, interface cannot define its own method. Then the class which will implement an interface will define all its method. So a class is actually implementing an interface. So in this figure, a class and a class. What is the relationship between the two classes? That a class extends another class. A class, it implements an interface, whereas one interface can extend another interface. Both are incomplete. Both have the abstract method. They can extend, but finally they get implemented by a class. Let's take the example of a bank. In this implementation of a bank interface, we made myinterface.java file. So we made the bank interface and here we took a float attribute, rate of interest. It is basically a method. We took a method, we declared a method, and we didn't provided any body, any action to be performed by this method. It is abstract by default as it is declared inside an interface. So this method is automatically abstract, means it will be defined within another class. So we made a class SBI that will implement this bank interface. So it took the rate of interest method from here, and inside this method it defined and worked in this manner that it returned 9.15. So whenever it will be called, it will return 9.15. Then we made another class PNB that is also implementing the bank. This class, it is defining the method rate of interest by its own according to its requirement. So this time it is implementing the rate of interest and returning 9.7, whereas SBI returned 9.15 and PNB is returning 9.7. Both are implementing the same method by their own, as it is not defined in the interface. It is required to be defined by that class, whoever will implement that interface. So it is the responsibility of the class SBI and the class PNB to define the method rate of interest, else it will not work. It will give error, or you can say it will produce an exception. So we made another class interface with the main method. So as there are two classes which are implementing this interface, so we made the object of the bank B as this interface which was incomplete, but this time it got completed, it got implemented with the help of this SBI. So this time we are giving it the reference of the class SBI where it got completed, and here it printed the rate of interest with the help of this reference variable B dot rate of interest. So this time with the help of this SBI it got implemented and it will return 9.15. Next, it will make, if we make the reference of PNB and then call rate of interest, that it might have returned 9.7. So as we have made only the object of SBI, so it is returning 9.15. Multiple inheritance in Java by interface, which we told earlier, which is not possible with the help of interface, but it can be done with the help of interfaces. It happens if a class implements multiple interfaces, or an interface extends multiple interfaces, like this. A class, it is implementing this interface also and this interface also, because only a class has the ability to define the method of an interface, because the method that belong to an interface are just declared. They have the empty body. They have no function. They have no definition of their own. The class is responsible to define its methods that belong to an interface. So the class can implement this interface and this interface. The different interfaces can be implemented with the help of the class. Or multiple inheritance can be possible when an interface, it is extending another interface. It is making its limit more extended, but still it contains all the methods that are just declared, not defined. Finally, they get implemented with the help of the class. But this way, multiple inheritance is possible. Now, in this example, a printable interface we have prepared, which contains a method print without any body, without any definition. Another interface, showable, it has again the same method print which is not defined. But a class myInterface which implements both these interfaces, printable as well as showable, means your class can use or define all the method that belong to this interface printable or the interface showable. It can define all the method that belong to them. So this class myInterface, it took print. Now print belong to both. No worries, because though the print method belong to both these interfaces, there they are empty. They are not defined. So a class without any disturbances, without any ambiguity or confusion, it can take any of the method and define its own, because they don't have that definition. The class can define its own definition, and this time inside this print, it displayed the value hello. Now inside the main, when we made the instance or an object of this class myInterface, this object can call any method that belong to this any of the interface, because print belong to both. So it can call any method from any interface, because this is the class which is giving its own definition. There will be no ambiguity. So this way multiple inheritance is possible. Output will be hello, because it has given its own definition. Your interface do not have any definition of this method. Printable and showable interface, they have same methods, but its implementation is provided by the class interface. So there is no ambiguity. That's all for today. So today we covered the following topics: constructors and its three types, no argument constructor, parameterized and default constructor, inheritance and its types, interfaces, and its usefulness. Thank you.